the film Vampires versus the Bronx, which is what we're going to explore. Because, like you said, it's very on the nose, isn't even trying. So I'll tell you what Vampires versus the Bronx is about. A group of young friends from the Bronx fight to save their neighborhood from gentrification and vampires. Directed by Asmani Rodriguez. So, yeah, like I said, not subtle at all. Definitely a kids' movie about gentrification. And if you go into it with that idea of like a kids' movie, I think it comes out okay. I think it's kind of missing a little of the charm that a lot of young movies have. Some people like compare it to like Goonies or something, but it didn't quite have the heart I feel like a lot of kids movies have had, and so for that it's kind of missing. It's missing a little bit, but it is, you know, looking to teach young people about gentrification and to overall like love where you're from and appreciate this home and the people who are in it. I think it does have a bit of heart in there, like it does try, and it means well, despite falling short in so many ways. Throughout this film, and even like before I like selected it, I couldn't help but compare it to Attack the Block, which is a UK film that we covered previously in our Aliens episode last year. It was an instant favorite of ours. It's
it was fantastic.
John Boyega as a young boy and his, you know, company of his band of youths fighting against alien invaders, but also confronting some real toxic and problematic issues in their community while they're doing that. And like that, it's also not subtle. Like there's a lot of on the nose, just like, you know, monologues that come with it, but it still felt organic and full in a way that wasn't so much like it was trying to shove it in your face in this film. So I really did go into this film with a lot of hope and like excitement, and then was like my balloon like quickly deflated. And I just had to keep like saying like, oh, this is a kid's film. Like this is for young people and maybe they learn something. But I feel like, you know, if you're going into this looking to like scratch your youth inspires revolution itch, you're not going to find it here. Trust, bro.
Yeah, it's not Attack the Block.
Yeah, I ain't even lying.
It was very cute, but it was not Attack the Block.
Yeah, and you know, like you can't really get another Attack the Block. It's so unique, and and there I'm unfortunately going to compare it quite a few times, just because I feel like if you're going to do this theme, like here's the way that it was done correctly, and here's like where I feel like it's falling short. And not to say like it should have followed the same model, but there are things in it that I feel like it was lacking. One thing I did love, and like we kind of mentioned at the beginning of this episode, was this like Afro-Latinx community that was like brought to life. It was so nice to hear like this bilingual community as like little Mayor is walking through, and you know, being able to intermittently speak Spanish and English, and to like see that there's a mix. Like he has Bobby, his black friend, and then I'm totally blanking on his name, Luis,
the kid with the glasses,
who is,
I forget his name as well.
Luis, I think, and he is Spanish, and so I think he was like Colombian, maybe. No, they kept calling him Puerto Rican.
Okay.
Because I got excited. I'm pretty sure they call him Puerto Rican a bunch. So that was like really genuine and I think sweet. I think tying it together with him trying to save the local bodega, there's like that little communication where they have like the bodega cat, and later once the gentrification is kind of underway, the cat isn't there anymore because they're like, I got caught for a health violation, and it's just like, oh, how could you take a bodega cat? How can you take
bodega cat?
Yeah. And I did love parts of that environment, and I did love the little like teasers of who these people were. But they all did feel like characters. Like I never really felt like they were real. Even like the moms really much felt like just like someone wrote what they imagine moms are like, you know, like, and it was kind of weird. I did think of, in the beginning when he's kind of walking through, it made me think of Miles Morales in Spider-Verse, because like he's Afro-Latinx. And so to have like when he was going through his New York town and talking like his little neighborhood and talking about like, you know, the Spanglish and like, you know, the community, that felt lively, that felt real, even though it is animated. And that felt more like realistic to me than this film.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I guess what I was hoping for throughout the entirety of the film, being that it's named Vampires versus the Bronx, was that at some point we would get this rising up of the neighborhood fighting against the vampires. Like I was thinking like the first Purge, where we saw like the, you know, the gang and the people who live in the projects like trying their best to fight back against their villain, right? Or I think of which we kind of got a version of this. I think of the ending of People Under the Stairs, where Poindexter is like grabbed by Father, which is the evil guy in leather, and the neighborhood is out there, and they're like, "You mess with the wrong neighborhood," right? Like, and that was like, that is this film, but like horror, right? And so, and that felt real. Like I loved that. Even though it was only there for like a minute in People Under the Stairs, like they just showed up to like help Poindexter, it still felt authentic. With this, I was like, they're here and they didn't do nothing. Like, why are they here? Like, they believe the mom all of a sudden. And I just kind of miss that, like, opportunity, I guess. Like, there's a few times where they like hinted that we were going to see some heroes, some unlikely heroes, like the young girl, I think her name is Gloria. No. The other one, who is like, she makes a joke about how she's not afraid of the vampires because she's Haitian. So I was like, oh, cool. She's going to have like cool like Haitian, like contraptions to like attack them. Right. Like, and that would be cool. Right. Or like her grandmother's going to show up with her. And she didn't. Like, they didn't even think to invite her. Like later. And I was like, that's so rude. Like, why? So like that felt sad. It felt like they spent so much time being like, gentrification is bad, that they missed like the actual like line of, this is like a kids fighting back adventure movie, like monster movie, right? And I also was like, with the parents, like I wanted more from them. I wanted more compassion from the moms and more care. Like I feel like Bobby's mom kind of gives them a one-off line of like, don't be like your father, but it didn't feel real. Like I felt like she honestly didn't care. She's like, you're gonna become like him, and that's, I guess that sucks. It didn't, like, I didn't feel like he was gonna try to do something for her. Like I didn't feel like he was actually struggling at all, in kind of that way, which is like, again, to kind of bring in Attack the Block, they were not good kids, like at the beginning, right? Like they were products of their environment, and that made them very real. Like these kids are good kids, like just genuinely like sweet kids, follow the rules, which is lovely. But they didn't really have anything to fight against besides like the overall like gentrification is bad. It does have Jesus and Miro in there. I forget what his name was in it. The owner of the bodega.
Andy? No.
I forget. But he's in it, and I thought he was charming. I thought I enjoyed his character, and I felt for him. And he was like the only one I really did, because he just seemed real. But even
he was a good actor. You have that moment when she enters the bodega, and he's like, like she just walks in, and he's like, "We have hummus now." We have other things that I know white people like. It was hysterical. Like that was my favorite part. Like it ended with like the saddest part of the movie, but it was also just like really funny.
There were like little bits that were cute. Like there was little commentary throughout. Like there's those two dudes who are like chilling outside, and there's like a sign up behind them. I forget what the sign said. It was like forks or like, I forget, but he was like, yeah, I know, confusing, right? Is it a clothing store or a restaurant? Like, because it's one of those like vague, like,
like what is gentrified
store? Yeah. Or like stores for like one thing. Like it's a, like,
we sell
typewriter store on right across from the Pope in Philadelphia, and I hate it.
Like, who has money for typewriters?
Why? Where is the
I guess they're cheaper than computers. But if they're not, then it's like, why?
But you can't like
Why
email
exist?
your typewritten script to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not
That's
convenient.
fair.
Like
It won't help anyone with virtual school.
Where's the demand for typewriters that we need an entire store? That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Right?
You could order them probably somewhere else.
It's like you don't need a whole store. Anyway, and it lasted way too much, like so much longer than it really ideally should have. Which means someone was buying it, and that makes me even more mad about the neighborhood. Anyway, I think the best part of this film, besides like those little parts, was actually the live streaming of Gloria, who's like throughout was popping in and would be like, "Hey, have you seen that there's missing posters everywhere? Oh, I thought these buildings are supposed to help the neighborhood. How come they're buying out all our people? I can't even go get my nails done anymore." Like, the things that as a young person she's noticing and asking questions, and then like nothing ever really happens. Like I was waiting for her to like break the case. I was ready for her to come through and be like, "I've been telling you that this is what's going on," and she was just kind of there to be another mouthpiece for like, "Hey, isn't this messed up?" And her, just like pretty much all the other female characters in this film, are really left out and don't have any genuine strength or power throughout it. I feel
they're kind of created as like tools or accessories to the three boys.
Yeah, and it's like in Attack the Block, we have like the female characters that like he is like pining after, but they were very real because she like confronts him and like holds him accountable for his actions outside of the aliens. Like she's like, first of all, you messed up a long time ago and now it's following you. Like you brought death into my house. And like she was powerful in her own right. And the crew of them were powerful in their own right. Like they didn't need them. They're like, "I'll show up and fight my own battles, but you need to go." Yeah. So they're like there and then they're not. And that just kind of made me sad because there was like all these little teasers of like, especially the Haitian line. Like that really got me because I was like, "Oh, we're going to see like,
it's gonna be
finally,
so exciting.
You're going to show us that other cultures know about vampires and can fight about them. Like we don't have to just use crucifixes, like," and like there's a part of that where we got, which like hit me in the feels was the adobo and like using that because it has garlic and I was like, that's cute. That's a cute little thing. I just wish it wasn't like the only thing I enjoyed. I also felt like the kids were a little bit like cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
Like, I think they would have benefited from more kids instead of just the three, or if we spent more time fleshing out each of them, maybe even if they had a girl that was in their crew, like that would be great. But I wasn't like as invested in them as I was for the kids in Attack the Block, even though they were evil or not evil, but like bad, right?
Yeah.
Like as soon as we meet them, we know they're bad. But
they were still like well-rounded. I think like they had a lot of solid character development that was lacking here. As you said, they're like cardboard cutouts of like the idea, and not so much like well fleshed out characters on screen. Yeah,
I think there's also like, so with like the kids in Attack the Block, or even the kids in Tigers Are Not Afraid from last week, or even, right? Like all of those kids were a little bit more mature too because of the worlds that they're living in and the realities that they have to face. And these kids also have those. Like they are safe and they do have, some amount of support and like a safety net around them. But overall, like they are still going through some stuff. The fact that Bobby is like, his father died by like just random gun violence, and we got that as an offhanded, like whatever comment aimed to hurt him, and then it was brushed off. And the fact that like his mom brought it up for a second, and then he's like in there with these with this gang who are honestly kind of nice, like, and we're not really a threat at all. I never felt like he was anything, and not any fault on that actor. It was really just like it wasn't written, like they didn't give him anything. Well, so there was no stakes.
Bobby was one of my favorite actors. Like he did a really good job like acting with what he had, but I agree with you, it was not written to give him enough to work with. Like when he was handed the gun, like you could see genuine fear in his eye. Like he was good at acting. It was like there were a handful of moments where I guess like his shine could have been written in there and it wasn't.
Yeah, I think like because with that, like with his storyline, right? I think back
Yeah.
to the first Purge, where like the young bull Isaiah,
Yeah.
and how he's like kind of going. He's getting involved for reasons, and you get his idea of the reasons, and you
Yeah.
know the risk, and you know that it's like not cut and dry of like, oh, he is being bad, right? And that's what I think like I enjoyed about Attack the Block and First Purge is that they took these like decisions and lifestyles and didn't like demonize them. They weren't villainized or
Yeah.
romanticized, but they were acknowledged like in their complexity. Like this is like these people chose this lifestyle because it's what they have. Like they don't have a lot of choices, and this is what they're doing. Like showing, you know, that in the first Purge, that the head of like the gangs also was like in the community. Like he was in the community service, like teaching kids how to play basketball. Like,
Yeah. I
so
mean, it was
I'm
really
just like,
he was drawing the parallel, you know, like, cause that's like what they like in, there's like studies done that basically like line up why gangs are a thing, especially in communities that don't have well-funded clubs and like after school programs, because there's this need for community and
yeah,
gangs provide that. Like they're not just all like horrible people. Like there's a sense of like community, sisterhood, brotherhood, like established in the creation of gangs. Like you're looking out for each other. Like that is
yeah,
the idea behind it. So like there's like a definite defamation of gangs in general when there are elements to it that are very much just like a camaraderie point.
yeah, because it's like that's like you have somewhere to belong.
Mm-hmm.
You're surrounded by people who understand you and that will help you, that will come out and be your support system
And
in a
in a
place where there
world,
isn't one.
yeah, like in a world that like actively puts like Black people in danger, like, and brown people in danger in America, like that is a safety net, like a community to feel safe in, and like that backs you up because you know the police won't. So yeah.
Yeah. And like in Attack the Block, we get a monologue from young Boyega where he like expresses like, you know what? I bet the government sent the aliens. Like they've already sent drugs, they've already sent guns into this community. I won't be surprised if that was ultimately what their goal was. And
Yeah.
like that was like one of the on the nose, like I am confronting this issue. But it felt genuine and it was real. And it was this understanding on the part of that child of the realities of the world around him and being like too mature for his age that we don't get from Little Mayor. Like he's like, oh, gentrification's happening. But it really felt like he heard about it on TikTok and was like, it's bad. So I'm gonna, you know, do this whole thing, which is like cute. But it kind of felt like a show almost.
Yeah. And they were young. They were like Disney Channel young. Like they were definitely like very young kids. They were younger than the Attack the Block group. I would argue younger than It cast. Like they seemed very genuinely like little kids. Like had to be like 4th, 5th grade. Maybe older in real life, but like the portrayal of them is definitely like they are young.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just like some of the written, like for this film being like all in your face with its political statements, I still feel like it missed the sincerity of this neighborhood that was being hunted and attacked long before the vampires even showed up.
Yeah.
And like
100%.
that's unfortunate that like they kind of skipped out on that. So I also found an article, as we do, on Wired titled Vampires versus the Bronx is a kids movie about class warfare by Emma Gray Ellis. And there is a discussion about vampire monsters in film as a whole, like what they mean when they show up. And we've covered vampires in the past and usually are talking more about like the nuances of being a forever super emotional human and what its effects have on your love life and romantic relationships, because it gets kind of messy and that's usually what they're there for. But similar to zombies, the fanged beasts kind of seem to recur during certain circumstances in our real world and serve purposes on screen to alleviate some of the trauma that we're dealing with in our real lives. And so in this article, Emma Gray Ellis says, Vampire stories seem to do best in times of economic downturn. They peaked first around the Great Depression with the classic old Hollywood films, and then again in the 1960s and 70s when recession and the Cold War made an Eastern European villain especially appealing. Twilight hit theaters in 2008, just in time for the financial crisis. Maybe this happens because the Dracula story can be understood as a kind of class struggle. Karl Marx certainly read it that way. Capital is soaked with bloody vampire metaphors. Capital is dead labor. That, vampire-like, only lives by sucking living labor and lives the more labor it sucks, Marx writes. So maybe vampires trend when middle and working class people feel like the rich are trying to suck the life out of them in one way or another.
Yeah. That's super real.
Sorry, hold on. My cat is in the way. Charlie, go. So we found that, zombie films tend to erupt during certain times of crisis related to epidemics. So I imagine we'll have many zombie films in the next few years.
Sure will.
As well as like war or capitalism. Things like that. Like when those kind of issues are popping up, we see films like that. So whereas zombies represent our fear of conformity and mindless labor, vampires, as described by Emma Gray Ellis, seem to exist as a placeholder for the larger villain, which isn't ourselves, but rather those in power. So instead of us kind of like conforming and becoming one of many, we're just being completely taken out because there is a hierarchy, and we are acknowledging we are at the bottom rung of that hierarchy, and the end is coming for us, right? Emma continues to say in this article, the innovation of vampires versus the Bronx is that not only are the vampires emblematic of class tensions, they're also evidence of how racism props up those systems of social and economic oppression. The vampires are extremely white and blonde to boot. The main vamps are Block Party Becky and a guy who dresses like he'd be a little too into the classics. They aren't just real estate moguls, the landed gentry of our age. They're gentrifying real estate moguls, specifically targeting neighborhoods and people of color because they think no one will care if they disappear. And I do appreciate, this unabashed, bold approach to exclusively white vampires, and the comparison to the kids looking up to Blade as a black vampire hunter, right?
Yeah.
That was exciting, and I did enjoy that. I thought it was cute. And similar to Blood Quantum, not holding back on just being white equals bad, these are the villains. We're not even pretending that they could be anything else. Very on the nose. And, I knew from the beginning that Block Party Becky, or I think her name is Vivian, was no good. I think when we were watching it, I yelled to Kat that she was like Rose from Get Out.
Yes.
I was like, she about to be eating her Fruit Loops and drinking her milk separately, all weird. Because you're already kind of trained to know that there are no allies. Like you said, she was pretending to be an ally. When she meets them, she says oh, I was priced out of my neighborhood. And then later she says to them I don't want the Bronx to leave. I want you to preserve what it's like because essentially, I want you to keep this redlined so then people don't notice that it's gone, right? I don't want to erase, I don't want you guys to lose who you are. You're the perfect victim. I need you to stay that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the biggest statement. Her character, as on the nose and silly as it was charming in a way. I was oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
She isn't pretending at all. And for kids to the fact that they believed her, except for Bobby, who was she gonna call cops. He was real talk, she's not a friend.
Yeah.
But the other ones being maybe, Vivian, the vampires are here, we need your help, those kinds of things. Only for her to turn on them. I believed that, and I did enjoy that. And then there was the really hokey, not even remotely Lost Boys vampires. But I think that this film overall does work to address concerns. And given that it is a children's film, I think it's a great tool to teach about gentrification.
For sure.
But the catch here is that it teaches gentrification to white kids. Because the children represented in this film already know about gentrification. They already know what's happening in their neighborhoods. They are not blind. They are like Gloria, who are walking around live streaming or making TikToks or like tweeting and talking about what's happening in their areas and being real and confronting it, right? So if you wanted someone to learn, this is very clearly a film that is designed for kids who are on the outside, who don't know and could possibly in the future be aware of that and help change it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, you know, that for that, there is that benefit, right? I think it does do its job. I hope that if a kid, you know, kids who watch it, who are represented in this film, if they see themselves as the heroes who are able to combat these white monstrous vampires and not feel still neglected at the end of the day. Like, I hope it does serve that itch of like, oh, I'm on screen, that person looks like me, to get that same thrill I had about adobo, or even just like have little retorts like my sister did for Spy Kids, right?
Yeah.
But also like serve as like maybe getting more allies.
For sure.
Who can see it.
Who aren't the vampire lady, but who are
like real allies. Like other white kids, like kids.
Exactly. They can see what it is to be not good, so that they know to like do better.
Exactly. 100%. So with that being said, what are our ratings?
If you don't like it, it's gentrifying communities.
It could be barbecue Betty or whatever. Becky.
Oh, barbecue Becky. Is she the one who brings potato salad with raisins?
Yeah.
Got you.
It's going to be barbecue. And calls the cops because you're being too loud in the park. Oh,
she ain't even invited. Okay, got it.
Yeah, she ain't invited. That's not. It's if you don't like it, because that's Vivian. She was barbecue Becky. Mm-hmm. And then if you do like it, it's Bodega Cat.
Yes,
it's Save Bodega Cats.
Save them. They're so cute.
Charlie
wants to be a bodega cat. She just has dreams. You can
go get fat and get pets from random people. So, Kat, for the topic of gentrification, redlining, and all the other horrific things you talked about in your section.
Barbecue Becky, because it sucks. Yeah, but people need to know about it, so, like, learn. Know stuff. Don't be Vivian.
Yeah.
And, like, impact over intention. Like, this lady, like, she clearly had bad intentions, but there are people who clearly, like, don't have the, like, knowingly know they're the worst and are. So it's like, it is your responsibility to not be that person.
Yeah. Well, it's like, even in, again, Attack the Block, when we have the doctor, I forget her name, but she's a doctor now. Her character at the beginning is like, you know, going out, she's Backyard Becky or whatever I said, barbecue Becky. And then it slowly starts by interacting with these kids, becomes enlightened to the realities of their life. And so she grows as a person. Whereas like Vivian, like she wasn't ever going to grow. So it's like, be more like the doctor from Attack the Block and not Vivian.
There has to be like an acknowledgement that you're not immune to being a barbecue Becky. Like you have to acknowledge that, like, I am not immune. There's probably going to be a time in life where I mess up something, and what you gotta do is acknowledge it, be genuine, and apologize, and do better. That is all that can happen.
Yeah, you have to actively try.
You're woke and you think you know everything. Obviously, if you ever get told you're not, you're gonna get hella defensive and just basically prove how much you're not. So, like,
yeah, don't do that. Say
no one is immune. We know nothing.
We know
nothing. Yes, I apologize genuinely and fix now. Do better. Never do crappy again.
Yeah. I saw a thing where it was a post today where they said, like, if someone corrects you or tells you that something you said is racist or, you know, like wrong, that means that person cares enough to want you to be better. Like they're taking the time to address that concern and inform you. And that's a part of care, like, because they could just very easily just be like, nope, goodbye, blocked. Like I do that all the time. I don't even hesitate.
Yeah.
I block my own family. Like ain't nobody around this, right? But if you're taking the time to be like, hey, no, that's actually not cool. Here's why. So like you should take that as like, oh, you want me to be better. You care enough. And like we're human, we have flaws, and you're not mad at me for like you're also understanding that like people grow up in certain environments and aren't educated in that way. So watch this movie to get educated.
If you're white and someone tells you something's racist, you do not have the authority to say it's not.
That's very real.
You can't just be like, no, it's not. It probably is. And even if it isn't, you are not the authority of the people to say whether or not something is. Like, I'm not going to, I can't go tell people something's not racist because what do I know? I'm trying to know, but like, I will never be 100% because I have lived in a life of white supremacy. That's what the world is. And I could always learn new things and be wrong. So people just need to do that. And if a Black person or a BIPOC or anybody tells you that you said something racist and you're a white person, do not defend yourself. Because that's not what we're looking for.
Just
be like, you're right. I'm sorry. That's
like,
all.
Okay,
I will never say that again. If you need explanations, you can ask for them, but that's it.
Yes.
You cannot deny.
So I agree, Kat.
Sorry, there you go. That's my
barbecue
segue. Hello.
Barbecue Becky. And for the film, I think, like I said at the end, that it could be a tool to teach young people who don't know about these things, or just like as a way for young kids who are featured in this film to feel seen. And for that, I think it is Bodega Cat. But, you know, as a film analysis show, I can't just go in there and be like, it was perfect. Yeah. It definitely needed a little more heart or a little more smoother representation of what's going on. And I really feel like it missed like the charm of like kids going and fighting bad guys.
Yeah.
Like even the blade, like them learning how to blade, I was like, I didn't like it still felt weird. Like, it wasn't a fun montage. It should have been a fun montage.
Yeah.
And then they should have done the things. He says a thing from it, but that was it. Like, I feel like they should have did a thing from them. Anyway.
There was a lot of potential.
It was like a big battle. There was no big battle.
But it's like, it's a step, I guess. Like, whenever we're not, like, thrilled, it's a step. It's definitely, like, the fact it exists is positive. But could it have done better? Yeah. Most things.
And the next one will.
Yeah.
That's our hope. All right. Well, as we say, don't get married.
They'll eat your kids.
They'll eat your kids.
Or there'll be vampires and suck the life out of your kids, which we hope not, but, you know, the world.
Yeah, listen to your kids.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird that these parents were, like, either just, like, they were so lackluster. I was like, they should have just not been there, like most parents in, like, those kinds of films or shows where they're just mysteriously not around. Like, I would rather that than what they were doing, which was nothing.
Yeah. There was at the end, but yeah, it still wasn't. It's fine.
Yeah.
You wanted more of a fight back. We wanted like a rally. Like they're having a whole...
Yeah, I wanted to feel that they were strong.
Yeah. Like they're having a whole save this bodega thing. That would, like, they were doing it, but then they just didn't show it. It was sad. It could have been good. It's okay.
Yeah.
Next time.
Well, yes.
On Dragon Ball Z.
This one was fun. Next week is gonna be really sad, so just be prepared. Remember to like and subscribe, share, read our blog, show us some love, give us some reviews. We really love that. Comment down below if you have thoughts, or shoot us, slide into our DMs, whatever you want to do.
Please like and subscribe.
Specifically for the Ghouls content, not for anything else.
Please read our blogs.
Stay out of the DMs.
We work so hard on them. It's like me using my history degree. It's my favorite. Yeah, I like the show too, but writing.
All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye.